It is such a pleasure again to come to Hampstead and to the town hall of Hampstead. Hampstead has a special place in the play of the divine. Perhaps the people living in Hampstead do not know the significance of this place. But we know there have been great poets who were created out of the beautiful atmosphere of this area. And one of them was William Blake, who has said a lot about the future ascent of man. He is one of the greatest seers of modern times, I should say. Into such details he has gone, that's surprising. How human being could reach that height of understanding of the divine laws. We understand the laws that are made by human beings. These laws also have come to us through our unconscious, through that great energy within us which inspires how to regulate our lives, how to improve, and how to give the basics required securities in life. The whole social structure was based on the laws that we received from the unconscious. If human beings think that they have got these through their mental projection, they are sadly mistaken. Whatever you project through your mental effort is actually dead. It's already there. Whatever is known to you is in the library. You have to just read it. But whatever new has to be known comes to you through the unconscious. This unconscious knows the divine laws. And by the time it arrives at the human awareness, there are some distortions, there are some misunderstandings. That's how we go on improving. Our systems, our governments, our ideas, how to change, how to be more peaceful, how to be more congenial with each other, how to keep countries together, bound in some basic things. But alas, what we find, that human beings have separated themselves. Nations have separated themselves. The whole world is on the brink of breaking into pieces. The laws that are based basically on the fact that man must love man, sometimes start creating hatred among human beings. But divine laws never change. They are eternal laws. They are the laws that are made for only our well-being. Nothing bad can come through them. And to understand these laws, we have to enter into the realm of God, into the realm where they operate, to understand them. For example, to understand the laws of England, I had to come to England. In the same way, you have to enter into the kingdom of God to understand those laws, and you are amazed how effective they are, how universal they are. Supposing there is a Sahaja Yogi in London and one in China, another in Russia, and the one in Australia, they speak the same language. They know the same thing. Because these are the laws manifested by the all-pervading universal divine power of love of God. It cannot be contained into small pots, into small nations, into small brains of human beings. Those laws govern us everywhere. For example, a flower becomes a fruit under that law. A seed becomes a tree under that law. Your heart pulsates under that law. Your food is digested under that law. You are brought to your balances also under that law. For example, you are an extrovert, you work very hard, you think of the future all the time, your heart will be attacked. Supposing you work too much, means you work with your brain, your heart will be attacked, a balance. If you work with your heart too much, you are an emotional person, you weep too much, cry too much, then your brain goes out. Look at the balance. The heart should go out, but the brain goes out. All these balancing forces are worked out by this all-pervading power of love. Now, many people have talked about this all-pervading power of love. Everybody says this is love. There's a big organization coming up. Every third day I find an organization of love. This all-pervading power has been felt by so many before. But when they wrote about it, others took a key from that, or a clue from that, and started dead organizations in the name of all-pervading power. Now, this all-pervading power is a very subtle thing. At this human level, you cannot feel it. It's a fact. You cannot feel this all-pervading power at all. If you say, I feel it, then you are denying the reality. If you want to live with unreal things, dishonest to yourself, then nobody can help. But if you are honest, you have to know that this all-pervading power, when you have, you yourself become collectively conscious. You yourself have a different awareness than what you have. Now people might say, all right, we have felt that different awareness. We are there. The other day somebody told me that I am God realized. I said, all right, now there must be something special about you to be God realized. And when we talked about things, I was amazed what he was saying. And I just couldn't understand how could he believe into such a thing as pronouncing that he is God realized. So we have to understand when these laws operate, they operate, but we do not know about them. We cannot feel it. We don't, at the most we might see a flower becoming a fruit. But can we say, how does it become? It's a living process. All living processes can be only reported, but they cannot be explained. For example, you can say, the fetus is there, the fetus has to grow, and the child is born. This is just reporting. But how can you explain that a foreign body goes into the human being, into the mother's womb, and it is not rejected according to all laws known? Everything that goes into the human body has to be rejected. But is not rejected. It is nurtured, looked after, loved. And then at the right time, it is thrown out of the body. Who does all these things? We don't want to know about it. We have turned our faces to that. We never explain that. We can report that there is gravity in the Mother Earth. But how there is gravity and why there is gravity, that we cannot explain. All right, this is being very honest, I should say, that whatever we cannot explain, we should accept it. And we have to now know, is there any method to find out how these things happen, how it is worked out. After all, in the realm of science, you haven't found out everything so far. And whatever you have found out, you have only found out the things that you can see, perceive by this human awareness, but nothing beyond. You cannot explain anything. And once you know that you cannot explain, you just take it for granted and say it's all right. One of the things we have taken for granted is our human awareness. We do not want to think that there must be some reason God has made us human beings. We know there is evolution, that we accept, thank God. Now no more somebody is not going to crucify me for saying that you are evolved. But nobody wants to think why. Why are we evolved to be human beings? To be crazy people? To be paranoid? Or to be just insured in some insurance company to die? Or to love 2-3 children and leave all the money in their name? Or some sort of a limited sphere that we think of in which we find satisfaction? Was that the reason for this universal being to create us into a human being? Must be some purpose, cannot be purposeless. Why did he create us, we must all think? Is just to slog and run a rat race and then die? Or is there something beyond? And when people start thinking about something beyond, then some create an image of God, say, all right, there is God. Then they say, all right, if there is no God, there is some sort of a cosmic power. Or they have given big, big names to all this unknown power. It's a simple name I give it, is love of God. That also many people use, you will be amazed. Love of God. Many people use it. But when you know this love of God, then this love flows from you. It just emits. It acts. It works out the way a flower becomes a fruit, in the way all these things happen. This flow of love acts. And that action, you may call it miracle or whatever it is, but it's very natural, because if it is flowing now on a level that is available to you, it has taken you to a subtler level from where you are emitting this, you get connected, say, to that tremendous power of universal love, then it must act. It's easy to talk about it. I mean, you can have people who can give lectures and lectures and lots of lectures about love. Also, you can see groups of people just moving in a wave, like some drugged or alcoholic people saying, oh, we are all in love, you see, we are moving. But it doesn't act. Love has to act. If it is not acting, then it is not God's love, it is some sort of a mental projection, or maybe your imagination that you are in love and you are in a romantic situation or some sort of a thing like that. It's something like any other human romantic adventure. This is not reality. Love of God in reality acts, manifests. And how does it manifest? As Muhammad Sahib has said, that when the time of resurrection will come, your hands will speak. Their mouth only speaks, not the hands. With the mouth they will say, all right, this is in love of God we are doing this. Sometimes I see all these plays going on, or we can say the circus going on. I'm amazed how can they befool themselves and befool others for nothing at all. When this dynamic love flows, it acts. Because this is the vital love. This is the love which has energy of giving energy to others. This is the love that combines all the energies of the world. And if this love cannot do the work of those energies, what's the use of having this love or talk about it? So the time has come for people now to face it directly and see it directly what it is. But most surprising thing is that human beings don't like the truth. They don't like it normally. If they put some show of artificiality, you will get thousands of people here sitting down. You might get the whole of Delhi caught up into it. Some sort of an artificial thing which has no relationship with God and His love. That is very much more appreciated. Because people think by that they don't have to achieve something. There's nothing to be done about it. For example, if I say I'm going to take out a diamond from the air, then thousands will be impressed, especially in the developing countries where they think diamond is the last word for God to give us. It's a headache, you know that. Thank God the diamonds now have gone down in value. So now they will take out something else from the air. But there are many who are mad after such people who materialize things and give. I mean, one should use the brains God has given us for using it. Do you think that God is interested in giving us diamonds? Then there are people who will tell you, all right, if you stand on your head for 10 days every day, then you will have your realization, you will become a great man. So they will do it because there's a challenge to the ego. But after 10 days, having all the headaches and all that, you go to the gentleman, he'll say, no, these were your karmas. You had some blockades. And this happened and that happened. That's how you didn't get it. So you do it with a double energy. Same thing. Again for 10 days. Within 1 month, you are starved, finished, and you might develop epilepsy or something and finish off in a lunatic asylum. Could be anything. There could be some other type who would say, all right, we must all meditate. Meditate here, meditate there. You cannot meditate. You have to be in meditation, means you have to be in that subtle awareness where you are collectively conscious. Is an awareness, is a higher awareness than what you have. Now, then they start meditating. Meditate on this, meditate on a light, meditate on your head and all that. You are to be connected first. Even prayers are the same way. If you are praying like mad, God must be fed up, first of all. If not, if He is not fed up with you, at least one should find out, are we at least connected with God? How are we to believe that whatever we are talking is heard by Him? What is the proof? We have to first of all establish that there is a rapport already established between us and God. If it is not so, then you are dishonest. Because if you are a scientist, you must first verify that whatever you are doing in a proper way. I would say most of the people who have been now going to different groups and churches and this and that, are thinking, what are we doing? Are we doing something sensible? What have we been doing? What did our forefathers do? Is it correct? Did it lead us anywhere? Or did we lead others anywhere? Why not ask this question? You see, nowadays I've seen some people sit down and plan out how to make it more interesting for people to come. I mean, they may start, say for example, a discotheque in a church or anything to make it more entertaining. I mean, is that the way? Are you going to reach God? That could be the attitude of any sect which is not yet connected with God. That's why I would say that we all of us have to face ourselves and ask ourselves honestly, are we connected to God or not? Now, how are we to know whether we are connected or not? I mean, if you believe you are already connected, I have nothing to say. Because this argument can take me away to such an extent that I will have no time for others. Like the other day, one gentleman took half an hour just arguing and I had to work, And he kept me busy very selfishly. I said, now will you please stop it and come and see me some other time? The others were all waiting. So we have to find out how far do we know that we are connected to God? How are we going to find out? That is very, very simple. Very simple it is. How do you find out that this is receiving my mouth? It's like my mouthpiece. That it is receiving my sound. That on the other side a person can hear. That means this is working all right. Now, if I ask a question and that person can answer it, that means he is listening to me and this is working all right. Now, supposing my talking on this mic is giving some recording there, say on a graph. And when that person asks the question, my answer again goes in the graph which answers his question. Then he will definitely believe that the connection is there, isn't it? It's a simple thing, that's the way we do it every day. There's no question of blind faith. So when your hands speak, you ask a question. It's very simple. You see, for people, it has to be something very serious, or you must discuss it and talk in a very serious manner. The whole thing is extremely serious, as if there's a big operation is going to take place, your stomachs are going to be cut out and something is going to pushed into it, and then your realization is going to work out. But look at the flowers, how they become the fruit. And how did you become a human being? Without any seriousness about it. Of course, it is not frivolous, but it is cheerful. And the whole thing, if you understand, that this operation is happening because you are made for it. Because you are built in for it. All these things are within yourself. Just it is a matter of connecting you to the mains. And when that thing has to happen, it should be the simplest. Because you have already reached a certain point, only from this point you have to go one step forward. For that you need not spend thousands of years writing books and this and that. But people can't understand. You see, they have a big objection. That how Sahaja Yoga is available to people who just come there, their Kundalini rises, they get realization. I say, why not? According to them, you must read some books on law, income tax, everything, and then find out about God, ultimately. Or maybe you should belong to some union or something, to political party and all that you should do. And then if you come to Sahaja Yoga, then you are rightly placed for Sahaja Yoga. It's not. What books do we read for our breathing? What knowledge do we have for our breathing? Nothing, we breathe, that's all, isn't it? Simple as that. In the same way, your realization is absolutely living and simple. For that, you don't have to waste your energy on all these artificial things. It's a living process of a living God. And then it is to be verified. So as Mohammed has said correctly, that your hands will speak. Means what? To be very frank, I must say I am very fortunate compared to all of them, because in modern times you cannot crucify me. And Muhammad Sahab was given poison and tortured all his life. That won't happen to me. You cannot cut short my life as you did that of Christ. In 4 years, what could he do to these fishermen? What could he tell them? 4 years is nothing. I was working on 7 British intelligent people for 4 years, struggling with them. So what are 4 years for a person like Christ? Whatever he tried to say in a nutshell has to be explained. We must find out some other methods by which it can be complemented. But anybody who says you have to go to some other books to find out about him, they will be very angry. They will not have it. They will have their own mental projections about it and they'll produce it before you saying, see, this is it. And that's how people are surprised why none of them are near him. How they lead such a horrible life and call themselves the followers of Christ or followers of Muhammad or followers of any other great incarnations on this earth. The reason is there is no relationship. There is no rapport. If there was, there would have been no problems, because they are all related to each other. As Christ has said, those who are not against me are with me. And who are those? You didn't give him chance to talk much. And whatever he has said, he has tried to point out as much as possible what is going to happen in the future. He has talked of the future. He has said, I'll send you a counselor. I'll send you a redeemer. He has talked about this. But what about looking out for that? Instead of that, people are satisfied. Sunday morning, get ready, go to church, come back home, finished. Then they get angry. Then become communist. They think if this is hell, the other is heaven. That's equally the same. No difference at all. Deny God. By denying God, are you going to find him out? Like a lady who says, I love my husband and goes for a divorce. Something like that. It's absurd. If you love your God and you want to find him out, then how can you deny him? All right, some people are wrong, but you should find him. Within you resides this great power of God, which is the Spirit, which is described by all the great scriptures of the world. Once you get to that Spirit, that light, the great light of your own spirit, shines in your attention, you are amazed. The whole thing gets integrated. Your physical, mental, emotional being gets integrated. That's how you get rid of your diseases automatically. Your spirit does everything. People sometimes thank me. I said, what is there to thank me? I haven't done anything. You are like a lamb and there is the spirit. Only the spirit has come into your attention by Kundalini awakening, which is your own mother. You can do it the same way. You can do the same work. So there is nothing to thank me about. And when it happens, you become collectively conscious. Again, I say you become. The other day, I had a phone call from someone who is a patient, and one of the Sahaj Yogis have been able to cure that patient. The lady said, she's from India, she said, Mother, I have been to many sadhus and saints and real saints and seers. But none of them do any upkar, means they do not try to help us out. So we have to go touch their feet and all that. But nobody does this. And look at this Sahaj Yogi for not paying a single piety, nothing. He comes every second day and he's cured me completely. And he's enjoying that. He doesn't ask for money, he doesn't take tea, nothing. He just comes home and tells me how to do it, and just it has awakened now and he's trying to establish it. Nobody does that. If you go to them, they'll give you a big lecture. Don't do this and don't do that. All kinds of commandments they come out with. But they never help us. Upkar has no translation in English language, I'm sorry to say, but it means gracious helping. In the concrete form. You see, graciousness is also, we can say, I'm gracious. May not do anything about it. You see, I could be gracious without doing anything about it. I can say I'm compassionate. May not do anything out of compassion. You see, or you can say that, oh, she's very compassionate. But what has she done? It's a concrete thing that you do out of your compassion is upkar. And that's what she said, and I was amazed, really. What are they doing, all these saints who are such great born realized souls? In India we have many saints. You will be surprised, everywhere I find there are saints. They are quite satisfied with themselves, but they are not bothered that they have to help others. And a gracious help, which could be health, could be their well-being, could be their family relationships, or could be their spiritual ascent. But spiritual ascent is the main thing. If that happens, everything works out automatically. Like when the light is put in, you see everything clearly. In the same way, once this thing happens, it should work out. I think there is no compulsion of anything. Whatever type they are, they can come to Sahaj Yoga. Drunkards have come to my program and shouted at me at the top of their voices. They have. Fanatics have come to my program with a Bible about to hit on my head. People have come from all walks of life and all types of people. But once they are changed, they know this is the spirit and this is what we have to have. If you are a seeker, you get it much faster. If you are a superficial person, you will come only for sickness or something, then you will feel, your curiosity will be awakened, then you will become a seeker and ultimately you will get your realization. It takes time for some people like that. If you are already conditioned and you have fixed ideas about yourself, that God is like this or God is like that, then you have to come out of it a little bit gradually. And then you see for yourself what it is. Sitting in my car, if I had been thinking about this hall, I would never have been able to see what sort of a hall it is. But when I came in, I can see it clearly. But supposing I was stuck up with the ideas that I had about God or realization or anything, I would have been just there, not here to see what it is like. So all these things, all the blockades do retard the speed of realization, no doubt. But all of you have to have realization because the time has come. This is the special time when all of you must have your realization. What will happen if you do not have your realization? Many people ask me. I cannot see any answer to the collapse of human beings, collapse of all this creation, if people do not get their realization. This is the complete emancipation of human beings. All the diseases of the world are because of that. All the political, economic problems are because of that. All other calamities are because of that. The nature is trying to teach you, make you understand Your own temperament is reacting against you. You are restless. The whole atmosphere looks so dark. That is the time when you start looking out for God. If everything is fine, nobody is bothered about God. These modern times called as Kali Yuga are the best suited. And that's why many people who are seeking God are born on this earth, and they are a special category of the seeker. They are called as seekers. But how many of them know what they have to seek? They stick on to things which are absolutely absurd, which has nothing to do with God. Like a guru says that you can seek God through sex relationships is absolutely wrong. You cannot. Because it is available to everyone. Every person has got it. Every animal has got it. And the more you are an animal, the more you become that. You need not run away from it, no doubt. But you must have a sane, proper life, sane married life, a balanced life. Then it works out. As you will grow in Sahaja Yoga, you will see how much harm it is done to us, to our innocence, the way we have played around with our sex life. It does harm us. It can be seen in nature also, how we suffer from diseases and other kinds of problems because we have lost our innocence. It's all right to say what's wrong, but no, there is wrong. Believe me, there is wrong. But before realization, I don't want to say anything about it. For example, people would say, what's wrong in smoking when I first came to England? Now they know it's wrong. Or about drinking, they know it's wrong. But I don't say you don't drink, you don't smoke, or don't have all those habits. I don't say that. You just get your realization. Then I will talk to you. Before realization, all questions start. Why not this? Why mother said so? Why this and why that? But once you get your realization, then you don't say that. You just give it up. Today only somebody before coming here came to see me and he said he's given up drinking. I said, how? He came from India and he thought he was an Englishman. You see, now he must drink. And he used to drink everything. He became an expert on that, you see. He was about to write a book on that. I mean, there's a science of it. I said, how is it you have given up? He said, mother, I just can't drink anymore. What to do? He just laughed. I said, can't drink at all. He said, just can't drink, mother. I said, what happens? Oh, I feel horrible. It smells like this and smells like that and smells. I think he gets the smell of the molasses or something from where it has originated. I don't say anything about those things. Many people have told me that, mother, in Sahaja Yoga you cannot come if you are drinking. No, you drink a lot. Even if you have got drunk today, doesn't matter to me. Because once your spirit is awakened, it will look after you. You have that thing within you. That correcting point is within you. That joy-giving point is within you. That emancipating point is within you. That ennobling point is within you. I don't have to tell you. Just awaken it. And you'll be amazed how powerful you became. All your habits drop out. All your slavery drops out. And you become a free man, absolutely powerful to handle yourself the way you like. This is what it is, the self-realization. It should act within and without. It acts within you and also without, meaning on other people. If there is a realized soul, he acts on others. Automatically. He need not speak, he need not say anything, but it has an effect of making that person relaxed and see a balanced view of the whole thing. Things change very fast for a Sahaja once he knows the technique of maneuvering this wonderful power. First you have to get it, then to establish it, and then to know how to arrange it and organize it. Once you know that, you yourself become the guru. There is no need to have these gurus for whom you have to pay such a lot of money and sell your houses and take out your children from schools. You become the guru. But you become the guru who is a real guru. The guru who knows all about oneself, all about the divine power, and all about the real knowledge of how to impart this joy of spirit. I think this lecture has to be stopped now because I have spoken so many times, even in Hampstead, and much more in Caxton Hall. And there are people here who are great Sahaja sitting down before me, who look just like you. But if you see them and talk to them, you'll find out they're different type. It's difficult also for people to accept anybody of the same clan as a guru. Very difficult. See, so we had to send some English Sahajogis to India to talk about Sahajog. Because if I talk, they say, oh, she's from our corner, you see. I saw her the other day in the car or something. But they are Sahajogis, and you all can become that. There is nothing like superiority or inferiority. There's nothing like feeling in any way less or more. You are just going to become. You are just ready. They have come earlier, so they have got it, and now you are going to get it. These flowers will become fruit tomorrow, and the others will become day after. What difference does it make? Because in the realm of God, there is nothing like time. It is eternal life. It is eternal life where you enter, where there is no time, no space. And that is the life one has to achieve. But not by just lecturing or taking a lecture in or thinking that Mataji is quite a good lecturer or maybe a bad lecturer, whatever you may think. That's not the way. The time has come of actualization, of really getting it within you. That's what it is. Of course, for this you can't pay. You can't pay for lava. I mean, it's very childish to say, but some people think that how can it be we cannot pay. You don't have to pay for it. You can't pay. Payment means some sort of a inferior understanding of the whole thing. This is divine love. How much do these flowers pay to God for making them into fruits? And how much did you pay to become a human being? How much do we pay for breathing? Maybe in London, maybe you are paying because you have stopped all the air to come in. What can you do? You have to pay for your own doing. For the undoing of it, you have to pay. That's a different point. But otherwise, everything is available to us free. And God's grace is available to us free. It has to be. Because it is so vital. It has to be free. The whole system of God's working is fantastic. When you become Sahajogis, you will be amazed to know that his television system, his intercommunication system are so well developed that we cannot conceive with this mind how quick and efficient they are. They never fail. We may fail, but they never fail. For all of you who are here, I am very much thankful that you have listened to me so carefully. But take your realization and then go. You have come here for realization, take your realization and go. There is no fear of anything happening to you. If you belong to some cult or to some group or to some ideas, you must know that you have to know yourself. Otherwise, how will you know others? You are in a confusion. There are many people who come and fight for some cults and things like that. I am surprised at them. Why are you supporting anyone which has not given you anything. None of your powers are manifesting. Have they given you some money? No, we have given them money. Then why are you paying money to fight for them? If there is a lawyer, if he fights for you, you have to pay him. Have you seen any lawyer who will fight for you, for whom you have not given money? But the cult business and other things are such that you are so brainwashed that you think it's your duty to fight. But where are you? Have you known yourself? Do you know yourself? Do you know your relationship with you and the whole? Do you know your relationship with yourself and this cult of yours which has put you into a group? You cannot have a group. You cannot form into groups. It's a universal thing that cannot be formed into an organization. It cannot be organized. If it is universal, if it has to do with the divine love, you cannot organize. Only if it is something human which is dead, you can organize it. All right, do what you like. You have secretaries, president, this, that, and that. But anything that is living, you cannot organize. If you try to organize, it dies. And that is why one should understand God's love that flows sometimes as the sap in a tree, which goes to all the places. From the roots it comes, goes all over, gives its love to the tree, to the bark, to the thorns, to the leaves, to the flowers, and ultimately to the fruit. It doesn't settle down into one. It doesn't form a group. Otherwise, the whole tree dies. And also that group dies with it. If the tree cannot live, how can that group of cells exist? Also, as you have seen in life, in the cases of cancer, one cell starts growing. It starts growing big and big and big. When it starts growing big, it becomes very big. And whosoever it touches, it forms a group with that. It becomes malignant. With that, it tries to overpower others. You cannot overpower anyone with love. You do not want to overpower anyone. Why should you? There is no need to aggress anyone in this, not to take any aggression from anyone. It is the most balanced personality that you develop. Because love cannot be forced on anyone. You have to ask for it, otherwise it doesn't work out. You cannot force Sahaja Yoga on anyone. Supposing you come and tell me, Mother, my son hasn't got realization, give him realization. I cannot. I cannot do it. It has to work out. Even my own son, I may not be able to give realization to. If he's not getting it, he's not getting it. You cannot give a certificate to that. But the way people come with the attitude is as if there can be an aggression or there can be a demand. I'm sorry, you cannot demand it. You have to get it, achieve it, and deserve it in a way. And that deserving comes through your only one and only one quality. That is the true seeking. If you are not truly seeking, then you will always run after things which are not truthful. If you are truly seeking, then you will discard all that is not the truth and come to the truth. If so, it works out very well and very fast. So may God bless you all. Those who want to have realization have to be settled down a little bit and they have to just put their hands towards me like that. Before that, I don't mind if you want to ask any questions. I don't mind. But one should not ask questions in such a way that you disturb the whole audience. You take away all their possibilities of getting realization and try to show off. And if you have to give a big lecture, it is better you again hire this hall and get the people and give them a lecture. But here people have come 99% to get realization. So one should not be like a dog in the manger policy. If you don't want to have it, all right, don't have it. You can go away. As I told you, I cannot force on. I have not to achieve anything or gain anything from it. If you have to gain your own self-realization, you better have it. But if you just are here to use this audience for your own purpose, then that's not fair. That's not fair at all, because then you can go and you can again hire this hall and address to the people. I've seen also people standing outside and shouting and saying, oh, come to our organization. Then why not advertise in the paper and get them for that? This is not the way. To be fair to anyone, we would not do that to any organization. For example, if there is an organization which is working out its methods, all right, let them work it out. We'll not go and visit that organization and go on saying that this is wrong, that is wrong, except that when there are people who belong to that organization, have come to Sahaja Yoga and have achieved something, then they want to tell others. That's a different point altogether. But this is not fair. And I would request you that please don't try to waste the time of other people who are genuine, who are sick. If you want to ask any nice, good question, you are welcome. You should ask. I am open to all your questioning. No doubt about it. Thank you very much. So any questions, please ask. If somebody has to be here to communicate to me. Anyone has any questions? All right. So just a simple thing is to put your hands towards me. I'm sure Graham must have told you about these fingertips have got the 5 centers and 6 and 7 centers. These are right and left sympathetic nervous systems within us, which have got these centers working here. Now, whatever I say, you need not believe in me altogether, but also should not deny me, because I am not doing anything to you. Just to expect something that will happen to you, which I do not want to tell you, because you see, people come with an attitude as if I am going to mesmerize them and take away something from you. And then they think, oh, why this and why that? I do not want to take anything from you whatsoever. Take it from me. Now, and I do not want anything from you. Only thing is, if you cooperate with me a little, it will work out. But if you do not want to have it, it is better to leave the hall and leave others in peace. I would request you to do that. Now put your just hands like this, straight like this, simple hands like this, and close your eyes. And please don't open your eyes till I tell you. Before doing that, I hope you take out your shoes, because the Mother Earth helps us a lot. And we have a nice wooden floor, we can do it. Please keep your eyes shut. That's very important. Don't open your eyes, because when the Kundalini rises above the Agya, it does not rise because if your eyes are open, then it does not rise. This is your own. Everything is within yourself, which you have to get. As it is in every Western country I have seen, the first blockade is that everyone feels guilty. Now I have to again request you not to feel guilty. There's nothing to feel guilty. After all, you are a human being, means you are at the epitome of the creation of God. And what is there to feel guilty? When God is the ocean of forgiveness, ocean of compassion, ocean of love, then what is there to feel guilty about? For what? You just have to say in your heart, at least thrice, genuinely, that Mother, I am not guilty. Genuinely, I say again. Put the hands towards me and not towards yourself or towards your hands. Straight, please. And now, just say, Mother, I am not guilty. Please put them straight. On your lap will be all right. Be relaxed. Be relaxed. Be relaxed. There should be no tension about anything. It will just work out. It is all within you. It is not going to take any time. And if you have any diseases and troubles, as a result, will be cured. Please keep your eyes shut. Because, you see, it's no question of curiosity or anything, but it has to work out. It's very hot. Now put your right hand, without opening your eyes, please put it on the heart. Right hand on the heart. Without opening your eyes, please put it on the heart. And ask a question in your heart, a question. This is the establishment of the rapport. A question, Mother, am I the spirit? Ask a question. Am I the spirit? Right on the heart, please. Mother, am I the spirit? Somehow put it higher, somehow put it lower. So put it just on the heart where you feel the beat. And please ask a question, Mother, am I the spirit? Which you are. Am I the Atma? Now put the same right hand on top of your head. On top. Touching it. In the center of the fontanelle bone area. Where the fontanelle bone area is, where you had a soft bone in the head, just little, it is little on the front side. It's more on the front side. Now press it with your fingers. In the central parting, see, press it with your fingers and turn it clockwise. I'm telling you how to do it for yourself. Press it hard and turn it clockwise with your fingers. Turn the scalp clockwise. Put your fingers in such a way that they lie parallel to your hair parting. Same way. Now, raise your hand up on the head. Higher. And see if there's a cool breeze coming in. Higher than your head, then you will feel it. Some people will feel it in the hand, some will feel it hot. You can put now your left hand without opening your eyes, please, and put your left hand on top of your head and see if there's a cool breeze coming in. And right hand towards me, on your lap. Please put your right hand towards me on your lap. Yeah. Now see in your hands if it is cool breeze is coming now. Those who are getting the cool breeze, please raise your hands. So many. Raise them higher. Good. Slowly everybody will be getting. Slowly, yes, may God bless you. Slowly everybody will be getting it. Just keep it on. Just keep it on. Put down your hands, please. Now, if you can open your eyes slowly, this is the second way of putting your Kundalini up there. You put your both the hands towards me again, like that. Now, this left hand is the hand of your desire. So you put it in front of yourself, in front of your Kundalini, and with the right hand you move it upward like this. Put it on your head and tie up the Kundalini there like that. Yourself you are doing it. Alright? Now, again, I'll stand up with that. Put it in front of your Kundalini. Wall like this. You reach on top of your head as much as you can raise. And now tie it up again once more. Once. Now again you start raising your hand. Go up as much as you can go. And now 3 times here with a knot. 1, 2, and 3. Now see your hand. Right? Keep your eyes open. At least there is no thought in your life. See now, is it coming? Full breathe. Is it enough?